many of you are related to someone with dementia? Keep your hands up. How many of you live next door or down the street from, or go to church with somebody with dementia? How many of you know somebody with dementia? How many hands are up? Just about everybody. Dementia is not something that we can sweep under the rug, that we can skip over. It's going to be affecting all of us. It's a disease of aging. Hi, guys. It's a disease of aging. So I don't know how many of you are aging. I know I am. I'm older than I was. And this is a risk factor as we're getting older. It's not limited to people who are older, but that is one of the biggest risk factors, is getting older. So it's something we all need to be thinking about. It's all around us, and we can either learn to live better with it, or we can try to get rid of it. And we can't get rid of it because too many people have it. Look how many hands are up. Too many people are affected by this. So I'm going to start, we're going to do a little bit of details about dementia, just to be sure we're all on the same page, but I'm going to start by telling you about my friend Ruth. Ruth is 87. She was a widow 7 or 8 years ago, and she lives alone, and you would love Ruth. She is a ball of fire. She has people in for tea 3 or 4 times a week. She loves to serve tea and cookies. She's very active in her church. She serves on committees in her church. She's got 6 grandkids. She's very proud of the fact that she has learned to email those grandkids, and so she keeps up with them with email. Yeah, she does that. She started a book club. She runs the book club that has been going on for years and years. She delivers Meals on Wheels once a week. She's out there doing that. She takes care of everything in her own home. She takes care of her own finances. She's very healthy. She's out and about, very active. She goes to the doctor every year, like you're supposed to do. The doctor tells her she's going to live till she's 130. She doesn't take, at 87, she doesn't take any medications except the occasional sleep aid. Drives her car, does her own grocery shopping, runs her home. She's in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease. It's not what we think of when we hear that somebody has Alzheimer's. That's not what we think of. We don't think of a person who's out driving around and playing bridge and running a book club. What do we think of when we hear Alzheimer's disease, when we hear dementia? What do we think of? What are some of the words we think of?
Nursing home.
Nursing home. Nursing home. Yeah, ooh, nursing home. Yeah. Yeah. What else? You had to describe it to somebody. What words come to mind when you think of somebody with dementia?
Dependent.
Dependent.
Confusion.
Confusion.
In the past.
In the past, yeah, living in the past a lot. Yeah. So yeah, not a lot of fun stuff. Not a lot of fun stuff. And certainly not somebody who's living the way Ruth is living. But that's actually, she does have Alzheimer's, but she doesn't know it. And her family doesn't know it. And the doctor doesn't know it. That's concerning, isn't it? Because this doesn't show up in a typical doctor's appointment. She comes in the door, she's looking great, she's walking great, she's testing great. He says, are you having any trouble with your memory? What do you think she says?
No.
What would you say?
No.
Yeah, right. So away she goes. And nobody realizes this is going on until the disease has moved merrily along. And then it starts showing. So this is the true face of dementia. And you are going to church with people who have this condition. You're going to church with a Ruth. And Ruth is doing well now, but if you peel the layers off of Ruth's life, you start seeing where things aren't quite as special as you thought they were. Yeah, she does email her grandchildren, that's true, but she's starting to get them confused, and she's not sure which one of them is the one that's graduating high school and which is the one that's getting married, and she sends the birthday check to the wrong grandchild. So we're doing a few things like that. Yeah, she does go to her book club, that's true, but she's not really read the books in the last few months. And she'll have an excuse, well, I just didn't have time to finish. Well, I didn't really like that one. And she's always late, always showing up on the wrong day for the meeting. She's always having to call somebody, is today the day we're having book club? Oh, it's next, oh, okay. And then she'll call again and call again and call again. She is driving, that's true. She is driving her own car, but if you rode with her, you'd notice a lot of cars honking at her. You'd notice a few moves that would probably not be safe. She's got some fender bender marks on there that she can't really explain. And she is occasionally getting lost going to the hairdressers or the grocery store. She'll take a wrong turn, can't quite figure out where she is. She is managing her finances, that's true, but if you opened her checkbook, and how many of us walk into someone's home and pick up somebody's checkbook and open it? If you opened her checkbook, you would see lots of markouts, lots of scribbles in the margins, lots of sticky notes on it. And she's calling the bank every other day to find out what her bank balance is. So dementia on its face can look normal, but that's the sneaky thing about dementia, is it can masquerade for a long time as normal when it's not. And that's what can be a little scary. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. I want to be sure that we're all on the same page with what dementia is, with the terminology. Dementia itself is not a disease. It's a set of symptoms caused by a disease like Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia. How many dementias do you think there are out there that we've identified? 5, 10, 30, 110 at last count. Yeah. So do you know that there's a difference between dementia and Alzheimer's?
Yes.
Okay, what's the difference? Who knows that one? Difference between dementia and Alzheimer's. Yeah, now a lot of people said yeah, but nobody's willing to speak up.
Alzheimer's disease tends to be progressive, rapidly.
Alzheimer's is progressive, so is dementia.
And Alzheimer's can be inherited.
Alzheimer's can be inherited, so can dementia. Oops, I stepped all over your
No,
toes.
that's
What you got?
It can only be totally diagnosed after death.
It used to be that we can only diagnose Alzheimer's after death, which was decidedly inconvenient, but now we can do it a little bit more. The difference between dementia and Alzheimer's is a disease that causes dementia. Dementia is a set of symptoms, and it could be caused by Alzheimer's, or it could be caused by some other form of dementia, or multiple dementias. So if I have Alzheimer's, I have dementia. If I have dementia, I may not necessarily have Alzheimer's. Make sense?
What is the difference in the progression of that rate between dementia and Alzheimer's? Is one faster than the other?
Different types of dementia progress different ways with different individuals in different situations. So we're going to talk a little bit about progression in the last part of this, but you can't say, it's not like racehorses.
Yeah.
You can't say that dementia goes this fast and Alzheimer's goes this fast. It's not that easy. So somebody saying, one of my favorite quotes is one that a doctor in an emergency room said, and he should have known better. And he said to this woman who brought her mother in, she said, you know, I don't think your mother's got dementia, I just think she's got a little Alzheimer's. You know, which really didn't make sense. Okay, so there's where our terminology, everybody's clear on the difference in Alzheimer's and dementia. Dementia's not necessarily going to be Alzheimer's, but Alzheimer's is dementia, is a form of dementia. MCI, a lot of times you've been hearing about MCI in the last 10 years. mild cognitive impairment. It's a fancy way of saying early stage. Mild cognitive impairment is showing somebody is having just a little bit of trouble thinking through things, but not enough to really disrupt their life. So they're still able to go through their normal activities. MCI doesn't always progress to full-blown dementia, but there's a 75% chance that it will. So most people who are diagnosed with MCI at some point will progress on to full-blown dementia. So when you hear somebody say, I've got MCI, you know this is very early stage. Early stage versus early onset, they are not the same thing. And we hear people say, oh, my mom's got early onset. Well, she got it at 85. That's not early onset. Onset has to do with the age when the symptoms began. And the cutoff age for early onset Alzheimer's is 65. So if I've started having symptoms at 63, but I don't get diagnosed until I'm 66, then they're going to figure out that I've got early onset Alzheimer's. Whereas if I'm 78 when my symptoms start, I could be in early stage dementia, like MCI, but that's not the same thing as early onset. They're not the same term, just so you know. Dementia, folks, is not a mental illness. It's not schizophrenia. It's not bipolar disease. It's not the same thing. Sadly, our healthcare industry has sort of lumped it in with mental health, but the pathology is different, the progression is different, the prognosis is different, the treatment is different, management is different. Everything about it is different. And because of that, dementia has a stigma to it, doesn't it? It does. And particularly for our older population, they find out about this, they want to shut the door. They don't want to let people in. And that's where the challenge is for you to minister to these folks, is a lot of times the families are going to keep it private for a lot longer than they would if it was something like cancer, when they might be more willing to share that. Because a lot of people are ashamed of this. And we are working like the devil to try to get over that stigma, because there is nothing about this to be ashamed about. It's an equal opportunity disease. It can affect anyone. And it has little to nothing to do with whether or not you lived a life of debauchery. So, it is more than memory loss. When we think of people, if you say that somebody has got dementia, you assume that they've got memory loss. Memory loss is sort of the euphemistic way of referring to dementia. It's way more than memory loss. Actually, the brain is actually failing. Parts of the brain are dying. What happens when your brain dies? You don't do very well. And that's what's happening with dementia. The brain is dying, various parts of it, at various rates. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. So this is more than just somebody being forgetful. Dementia is way more than somebody being forgetful. But forgetful is the part that we think of most of the time. And it's inconsistent, like Ruth. You know, here's Ruth, who is functioning just fine most of the time until you start looking at her checkbook, or until you walk into her house and realize that the washing machine's running, but there's only 2 things in it. So you're seeing where people can do some things just like they always did, but then they're doing other things that are different. And that's where the dementia comes in. And that comes at different paces at different times over a period of months and years. And it is progressive. This disease knows only one direction, and that is forward. There is no reverse gear. There is no stopping it. We have medications out there, a few. We don't have anything that will stop it. We don't have anything that will reverse it. We have some things that can slow down the progression a little bit. That's about the best they can do. So we can't fix this. There is no cure. We cannot fix it. There are medications for it, but that's the best they can do, is slow it down a little bit. And this is a hard one, all dementias are terminal. All dementias will take you out. If something else doesn't, if you have Alzheimer's, if you have frontotemporal dementia, if you have Lewy body dementia, that will take you out unless something else gets you first. A lot of people don't know that about dementia. And it's hard to hear, but it's something we all need to know. So, anybody got questions on any of this? We're going through this kind of fast. All right, so dementia, I said, was more than memory loss, right? So this is what I call the big four. This is me doing this. This is not scientific. This is what I have done, the big four. The big four, the first one is memory, but it's not just memory, it's information. So that's the thing that you see the most. I can't hold on to information. So I'll have a phone conversation with you, and I'll call you back 5 minutes later, and we'll have the same phone conversation. I used to get phone calls from my mother, and I would get 38 in the morning, and it was the same thing. And that was how her brain worked. Because of the damage to her hippocampus, she could not hold on to information. And so we would have, and so families who are living with this, you know, I say to you, what are we doing today? And you say, well, we're going to the doctor, and then we're gonna go to lunch with Aunt Ethel. And a minute or so later, I'm gonna say, so what are we doing today? And a minute or two later, I'm gonna say, so what are we doing today? Well, what are we doing? What'd you say? What do we do? Well, I didn't know we were doing it. And by the fourth or fifth time I asked that, how do you think my caregiver's doing with that? How do you think my spouse or my kids are doing with that? I've already told you! This is why we have caregivers who are under a lot of stress, because they're living with this on a daily basis. Am I trying to be ornery and ugly? I just can't hold on to it. My brain doesn't hold on to it. My brain makes mistakes, and so I make mistakes. I can't help it. So information processing is, I can't always understand what you say, and even if I can understand it, then I've got to figure out where in this damaged brain of mine that I'm going to go and put that information so that I can go back later and get it through this damaged brain that has all the roadways and bridges blown up. So I can't hold on to information. So it's not just what did I have for lunch, it's the conversation that I had with you 5 minutes ago. It's anything that you've told me. So families will do this when they'll say, oh, guess what? Susie's coming on the 24th. When's the 24th? That's like a week and a half from now. Guess what I'm gonna do every single day between now and the 24th? Didn't you say Susie was coming? When's Susie coming? What? It wasn't it Susie that? Didn't you say Susie was coming? I thought Susie was coming. Wasn't today the day that Susie was? Because I can't hold on to information. I can hold on to the fact that Susie's coming because I can't wait to see Susie. That's an emotional connection. But I can't hold on to the details. And that will drive you crazy because I'm going to ask about it over and over again. So that's memory and information processing. Thinking skills. This is the next one. This is the one that is the most concerning of all the four. And it's the hardest one to see. These are my higher thinking skills. This is logic, reason, and rational thought that you never even think about because you do it automatically. And I used to do it automatically. If I'm a person with dementia, I used to do it automatically. But now I don't. So I say to me, well, why can't I drive? And you say, because the doctor told you you can't drive and you don't have a driver's license anymore. You're right. That's the correct answer, but it's a logical answer. And I can't follow the logic. So my answer is going to be likely to be something along the lines of, well, that doctor didn't know what he was talking about. And how are you going to argue with that one? So conversations become really difficult because we're not speaking the same language. You're speaking the language of logic, reason, and rational thought, and I'm not. And I can show you pictures. I don't have it on these slides. I don't think. I can show you pictures of how this looks in the brain. This part of your brain is your prefrontal cortex. This is where those higher thinking skills live. I can show you a picture of your brain where this is lit up and red and really going at it. And I can show you a picture of Ruth's brain, and Ruth, who is driving a car and fixing tea for people and emailing her grandkids, where there's not much going on here. And that's because of how dementia has damaged her brain. But the other thing that what happens in prefrontal cortex is I lose the ability to think through, to troubleshoot, to problem solve. I've got a leaky faucet, and what I should be doing is turning the water off, and I just go and get a bunch of towels because I can't think that one through. I can't get started on something. So you'll see me sit around a lot, and you'll say, Mary, aren't you going to empty the trash? I will. And then 30 minutes later you come in, Mary, I thought you were going to empty the trash. I'll do it later. And a lot of times that is because I don't know how to get started. Initiative is a higher thinking skill. You never think about it. Organizing your day is a higher thinking skill. You never think about it. Person with dementia has lost it. And so that's what makes this so difficult, because one of the higher thinking skills is the ability to multitask, to have several balls up in the air at one time. Guess what you have to be able to do to multitask? You can't drive a car if you're not multitasking. If you can't multitask, you got no business driving a car. You can't keep up with what's going on in this lane and this lane and on the radio and that sign and that traffic light and that pedestrian and that car and that car and that car and that car and that car. You can't keep up with that. And that's where the driving issue becomes such a problem for families. It's not because I can't physically drive. I can get in the car and I can do all that. That's muscle memory. Where I'm having trouble is higher thinking skills, multitasking, decision making, thinking quickly. So, executive function, that's what that's all about. Language, a lot of people don't realize how difficult language is, and this is something for you to know as you're supporting your families and supporting people living with dementia, is that language is a problem for them. Even though they're still speaking, pay attention to how they're speaking, because the chances are pretty good they're not speaking in long sentences with a lot of commas. They can't handle that many words. So this is what happens. If I'm the person with dementia and I say, what are we doing today? And you say, well, first we're going to the doctor's office. That's that appointment with Dr. Jones that we had last Tuesday that they canceled, and so we've done it for this week. And then we're going to go from there to the cleaners, because we've got to pick up that jacket, that I had spilled syrup on. And then we're going to go meet Uncle Fred and Aunt Ethel for... If I'm having trouble with language, how much of that you reckon I followed? You lost me. And this is what we do. Information. TMI, too much information. And we do this. We estimate that a person in moderate stage, early to moderate, like Ruth, is missing every fourth word of what they hear. Every fourth word. So does that change what they hear? Listen to this. Unless someone cares a whole awful, nothing is going to, it's not. What did I just say? Let me try it again. I'll do it louder. That'll help. Yeah. Unless someone cares a whole awful, nothing is going to, it's not. What I said was, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Dr. Seuss, 3 words missing. But did it change what you heard? You betcha. So this is what families have to understand, is even in early stages, even if I'm sitting at the table, even if I'm talking, pay attention to how I'm talking, how fast I'm talking, how many words I'm using, how much space there is in between my words. Pay attention to how much time there is between what you say and the time that I respond to it. You're saying something about going to see Aunt Ethel and Uncle Fred. I don't say anything. You go on to say something else, and then all of a sudden I respond about Aunt Ethel and Uncle Fred. I'm running behind. I can't keep up with conversation, and I sure as shooting can't keep up with conversations when there's 47 people talking. So this is why you see me wanting to not go to church suppers anymore, because I can't handle all those conversations going around. Yeah.
I have a question. Do people tend to not only, in the language piece, miss words spoken, but also do they?
Can't find words.
Yes.
Speech, thank you. A good question. Speech is like 3 different segments of it. Part of it is the ability for me to find words, my vocabulary. I got to go deep into my head and find the right word. So, you know, I'm looking for my, I'm looking for that, the thing that I'm looking, the thing that I'm looking for. I can't come up with that. And with dementia, it's going to be nouns and names more than anything else. So what are you going to do? You're going to say, what are you looking for, Mary? If I knew what I was looking for, I'd have told you. And that's what people do. So there's speech, there's vocabulary, there's comprehension, with that losing every 4th word, being able to follow what I hear. That's the second part of language. And the third part of language is speech production, being able to produce the words. And as I get later in dementia, I won't be able to do that. And you'll hear people say that I'm talking in word salad, and I'm just not able to produce those words. But the biggest problem for y'all, trying to help me as a person with dementia, is that you assume that I'm understanding everything you're saying, and I'm not. So you have to really dial that back. You have to really pull back on the amount of words you give us. And the last one is personality, and this is a hard one for families to get. This is the hardest one, because dementia will change my personality as often as not. It makes, if I used to be an introvert, I may still be an introvert. I might start being out there, saying things out in public that I might not have done before. Or if I was an extrovert, then you might see me not wanting to go to dinner with friends, not wanting to go to church, not wanting to go to book club, because I can't follow the conversation, and I don't want to be embarrassed because I can't keep up. So the personality thing is really hard, and then you will see me as a person with dementia be more emotional than I used to be. I might cry more easily. I might get angry more easily. I might become withdrawn more easily. And it's because I'm frustrated that I can't figure this out, and I can't do this, and I don't, and so I'm frustrated. And because this isn't working, this is what keeps my emotions under control. Because it's not on the job, my emotions are out there, like a 4-year-old's. And so I'm going to go from 0 to 60 over things that are pretty much inappropriate, certainly different from what I used to be, because I don't know how to corral my emotions. And so that's why you're going to hear me make comments like, that doctor didn't know what he was talking about. That is 100% emotional, right? Nothing about that's logical. But that's the only thing that I can get to in my brain, is that part of it. So it makes my personality different. And that's hard for people who've known me for 50, 60 years. And all of a sudden I'm angry about stuff. So, the big 4. It's more than just memory loss. That's the kicker about this whole thing. So, how can you change how you communicate? Here are the things for you to not do. Argue. Any sentence that begins with no is going to go to an argument. Let it alone. Let it alone. I'm going to make mistakes. Your job is to not argue with me. I'm going to say the moon is made of cheese.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
That's
yeah.
been a long time.
Yeah, Pat's been with me for a while. The moon is made of cheese. What can you say to me besides, you're crazy as a loon? Where did you get that idea? You have to learn to play along with me a little bit because my brain is making mistakes. So when my brain makes mistakes, I make mistakes. So any sentence that said, no, that's not your jet, that's not the right, no, that's not. And if you listen to ourselves, we'll do that all day long. We don't know that we're doing it, we don't mean to be doing it, but that's what we're doing. No. Because I'm making mistakes all the time. And y'all are trying to correct me, which is the next thing you know. No, you don't mean the trip to Hilton Head, you meant the trip to Myrtle Beach. No, you've got 3 grandchildren, not 4. No. So this is both. This is argue and correct. Correcting me, I'm going to make mistakes. Don't correct me. Unless you have to. And you can correct me very nicely, like Pat just did. The moon is made of cheese. You're not going to say, oh yeah, so it is. But what can you say? Well, wonder what kind of cheese it is. I had a woman whose husband had been told he couldn't drive, and he was fighting it tooth and nail every single day. And she had sold the second car. And he would come in every single morning and he'd say, well, I'm gonna go buy a car. And what do you think she said? No, you can't buy a car. No. Then she corrected him, because the doctor told you you can't, and you don't have a driver's license. All of which was correct, all of which was negative. And so his answer was, the doctor didn't know what he was talking about. So I worked with her for a while. So the next time he came in, said, I'm tired of this, I'm gonna go buy a car. Guess what she said?
What kind of car?
What was it?
What kind of car?
What kind of car? Dead on it. What kind of car? Was it, yes, sure, fine, I'll take you to go? No, she wasn't gonna agree with him to go buy a car. She was not gonna do that. But neither was she able to have to say no. What kind of car are you interested in? And this is how he answered her. Well, I don't know, but something I like. 100% emotional. So she started reminiscing with him about cars. What was that car, that old jalopy that your dad, and they started telling old stories in the past and avoided the whole conversation. Did we fix the problem? No, we did not. He's gonna ask again tomorrow. But did we avoid an argument and ruining her morning and his as well? Yeah, we did. Did we keep them connected? Yeah, we did. So your job to support a person living with dementia is not to correct it. I'm not a 3rd grader learning my multiplication tables. That was your job then, to correct me. It's not your job now. I'm gonna make mistakes. Your job is to go past it and realize, oh, there's the dementia showing. Explaining, we know about explaining, because explaining takes place in my prefrontal cortex, and that's where I got damaged. So anything that you try to explain to me, like the woman, you can't drive because, and she gave him the list, and we will do this. We will pull out the charts and the graphs, and we'll give them all these reasons, all of which are true, all of which are accurate. But is it connecting with me? Is it helping me? No, it isn't. And so you're not speaking the same language, and it's not, the interaction's not gonna go well. Convincing me, but you liked it the last time, but you always like, we do that. I've got dementia, I'm not going to be consistent. So just because I went last time doesn't mean that I'm going to pay attention to you when you say, but you liked it the last time. Trying to convince me of something verbally isn't going to work. You're going to have to let me experience it first. The R word, don't you remember? We've already had lunch, don't you remember? Susie's coming on Friday, don't you remember? I've told you 3 times. We say that all the time. No, I don't remember. I have a disease that keeps my brain from holding on to stuff. Don't expect me to hold on to it. And for God's sake, please don't say, don't you remember? Because I don't. Okay, why? That's the last one. We ask people, this is my favorite story about why. Why is one of the things that's one of your higher thinking skills. That requires insight. And if you ask me why I did something, you need to be prepared that I'm going to give you an answer that you aren't going to like. And my favorite story about that was the woman who had young onset Alzheimer's. She was in her 50s. And she had gone into her closet and she had taken every one of the clothes off of her hangers, every one of them, put them on the floor. All the hangers were hanging there empty. And her husband came in the door and he said, "Why on earth have you done that? Why did you take your clothes off the hangers?" What do you think her answer was? Anybody got any idea?
I don't know.
No, she knew. She knew.
Get it rid
She
of
knew
it.
her reason. What was it?
I want the hangers to hang other
I
clothes.
wanted the hangers to hang on the clothes. That's logical.
Maybe she could make up her mind what to wear.
What she said was, the hangers are moving and I couldn't find my clothes. Now, is she right? Do the hangers move? Yeah, they do. And that messed with her vision. Remember, she has brain damage. That messed with her vision. She couldn't manage it. Her husband was like, "Oh, okay." And he immediately built a bunch of shelves. She has no hangers in her closet. She has all shelves and all of her clothes. So she gave him an answer because the hangers were moving. What do you think most people would have said to that? What do you mean the hangers are moving? Whoops.
Whoop.
So, yeah,
Yeah, but to her, the hangers were moving and that's.
the hangers were moving and that was unacceptable.
Yeah.
She could not manage that because her brain sees things differently and processes them differently. So if you ask a person who's got dementia why they did something, you need to be okay with what answer they're going to give you. Because it's not going to make a lot of sense to you. But it made sense to them. It made sense to her for sure. Okay. But the good news is there's stuff that's left. Most of this is on the right side of the brain. For some reason, most dementia hits the brain not symmetrically. So language is on the left side of the brain, and it chews that up pretty good. But right side of the brain has music, rhythm, counting, poetry, prayer, lives on the right side of the brain. I saw my mother, a lifelong Methodist, sorry. lifelong churchgoer.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
Absolutely.
That's the next
Right,
slide. Maybe the next slide. I saw her in later stages of moderate to late stage of vascular dementia. When she would go to the Vespers service that they would have on Sunday afternoons in the long-term care facility where she was. And I watched her at the service, and they started the Lord's Prayer. She did not bow her head. She did not close her eyes. But her head moved in rhythm to the phrases, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." And her head went right back and forth with every one of those phrases. Was she engaged with the Lord's Prayer? You betcha. Was it familiar to her? You betcha, because it was here, right side of the brain. She wasn't doing it. I've seen people who would sing 3 verses of Amazing Grace and couldn't put together a sentence to speak, but they could cough up all 3 verses of Amazing Grace and deliver it without a hitch. So, can you connect with me through music as opposed to conversation? You betcha. Write this down, because I don't have it on this slide, so write this down and go look it up. Alive Inside Henry. Write that one down. Go home. Pull up your internet. Put in Alive Inside Henry. And it's, less than 10-minute video. And it's Henry who's living in a long-term care facility, late stage Alzheimer's. doesn't speak, sitting in his head now all the time. No response until they put earphones on him and started playing Motown music, and he became alive. Now, does it cure the dementia? No. But does it bring him joy? Yeah, it does. How many of you saw Tony Bennett's concert a couple of years ago with Lady Gaga? It was fabulous. He was out there with Alzheimer's disease. He was out there singing, didn't miss a note, didn't miss an entrance, didn't miss a phrase, one after the other. Was he talking too? He was, but this is what was happening. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, great night. Thank you yeah. Phrases that were familiar to him in the setting, but was he having conversation with anybody? Back and forth? Was he talking? No, it didn't have content. But it came across in the setting as very normal. The next day they asked him about the concert. He had absolutely no recollection at all of the concert. So was that a reason for him not to even bother with the concert? No, because he got joy in the moment. And that's the thing you have to know about a person living with dementia is, bring me joy in the moment. It's not whether I'm going to remember it or not that's important. It's whether I enjoyed it in the moment.
If you saw the documentary on Glenn Campbell.
On Glenn Campbell, yes.
And in his later stages of that, he couldn't rationalize anything. He couldn't comprehend.
Nope.
But he never lost the music.
Never lost the music because
He
it's
pick up
here.
the guitar and play it, and pick up and sing it.
Yep.
And it was where you say, it was there.
It's alive and well, living right there. So and I don't have to be a great musician like Glenn Campbell or Tony Bennett for this to work. If I grew up in a church singing Amazing Grace or Jesus Loves Me, guess what? You can sing Jesus Loves Me with me and watch me smile. So, music, rhythm, prayer, poetry. Rhythm, I can have a good time with that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7. You can connect with me on a lot of things. Poetry, I may not remember the poetry unless it's like Mother Goose. I might remember 3 blind mice. I might remember that, I might not, but I will focus on you while you do it. I'll be all over it while you do it. How I kept my mother keeping her mouth open in the dentist chair. I'd have my face right on top of hers. The owl and the pussycat went to sea in a beautiful peak and did the whole thing. And she was right there and let the dentist do what he was supposed to do. She didn't do it with me, but she related to me doing it. Creativity and imagination. So this is one of the things that we see this with people living with dementia is that, I used to be a chairman of a board and I never did anything creative or imaginative. And now you see me doing sculpting or pottery or art or poetry. There's a whole bunch of poetry out there written by people living with dementia who didn't start it until they got dementia. So you can encourage that sort of thing. You see me wanting to color, that's not a juvenile thing. That's creativity. So letting me do that. Social chit chat. How's the family? Yeah, doing great. How was it? Yeah, I can do that with you all day long, which is why I'm good at the doctor's office. Because the doctor asks me questions. How are you doing? Fine. I can do that for a long time. And I can do that at church. So you don't realize what's going on with me because I can play that game with you. You can come up to me and say, how you doing? Oh, fine. Did you watch that game last night? Yeah, it was something. Boy, this is some weather we're having. Yeah, boy, it is. I can do that with you for 15 minutes because I will have those right little phrases. But if you break down the conversation, there's not much content in it. And it's like the Tony Bennett stuff. He did the social chit chat that was appropriate for the setting, but there wasn't much content. And that's where you're going to lose me. Muscle memory is that part of the driving. that I can, the physical part of playing a violin, the physical part of riding a bicycle. That is a different kind of memory, and that's gonna outlast my dementia. Hearing, does dementia cause hearing loss? Trick question.
The other way around.
Almost. Dementia itself doesn't cause hearing loss. Hearing loss causes hearing loss. That's an ear thing. Dementia messes with comprehension. So if I have hearing loss, it's because I have hearing loss. If I have hearing loss and dementia, I'm not only going to have hearing loss, I'm going to have trouble with comprehension. So I'm hard of hearing and I'm hard of comprehending. So dementia itself doesn't mess with my hearing. It messes with my ability to comprehend, which is part of hearing. And my emotions that are alive and well and running my train. So these are the things that are left. So for the next 10 minutes, I get 10 minutes, yeah, this is what you're gonna have to keep in mind. And everybody gets a copy of these slides if you want them, because I'm just gonna go flying through this next part. But this is the thing to keep in mind. They're doing the best they can with what's up there. And what's up there is not what's in your head. What's in their head is different from what's in your head. It's different from what was in their head. And it's progressive. You can't have a little dementia. It's like being a little pregnant. It doesn't show at the beginning. You can hide it, but there comes a time when you can't. So this is progressive. You know it's going to have stages, and that's what we're getting ready to get into. I'm doing the best I can with what I've got to work with. Your job is to figure out where I am and contribute and connect with me there. Don't try to pull me into your world. Your job is to come into mine. Because I can't play your game anymore. You have to come play mine. Because that's all I've got. So, approach matters. I am very tuned in to what you look like when you come in the door. So when you come in the door and you say, Martha, aren't you ready yet? Does Martha like me right now? No. If Martha was 4 years old and parts of her brain are, if she has dementia, very much like that, what's her reaction going to be?
She might push you.
She might have, yeah. If her reaction now, I might say, Martha, aren't you ready yet? You say, oh crap, I didn't realize it was this way. That, but no, if I did that, Martha, aren't you ready yet? Ready for what? And then you can see where that one would be going. So I have to be very careful with how I approach. Martha, you look so pretty. I love the flower. You got flowers on. Does Martha like me a little bit better now? Am I appealing to Martha's emotion?
Yes.
Yeah. Am I in a hurry? You bet I am. She's late. I'm going to be late, but I really got to hold it down. I can't let her know that. Hey, Martha, come on with me because we've got a fun place to go. Do I have a better chance of getting Martha to come with me? Yeah, I do. Because I'm having, at that moment, I have to remember that part of Martha's brain is like a 4-year-old's. Through no fault of hers. And Martha's a smart cookie, but if she got dementia, that's what would happen. Some of these you can go back and look at it. Yes and is a wonderful way. That's to not have the no answers. That's when I say, I don't know why that doctor says I can't drive. I'm a good driver. What can you say back to me that's not going to be an argument, that's not going to be a correction? You can't say, yes, but. You can't say anything else, but the doctor's, oops. So how can you agree with what I just said? I don't know why that doctor said I can't drive. I'm a good driver.
I don't know, I never drove with you.
Sorry?
You can say, I don't know, I never drove with you, because that had to
Yeah,
be.
logic. You're right, but logic. I want a yes answer.
I would say to my dad who had dementia, I would say, yes, you were a great driver. And
Yes,
remember
you're a great
when-
driver.
Remember when you drove down to Asheville?
Remember when
Saturday?
you drove, there we go. So, yeah, and she just used the R word, but she did it in a different way. She was talking about a memory from 50 years ago. Remember that time you drove, so, and now here we go. So, can she say, yes, you were a good driver? Yes, she can. You can absolutely agree with that. This is one of my best ones about that. I had a couple, devoted couple, and he got Alzheimer's. And he was one of these that started having some paranoia and misremembering and misunderstanding, and he got in his head that she was cheating on him. That happens, and boy, is it hard. And this particular morning, they got up, and he turned and looked at her and said, "You were out last night." What do you think she said? "No, Robert, I was right here with you." And no, you were out last night. I know you were, and here it went. It did not go anywhere pretty. The more she insisted, the more he insisted. So we had to come up with a yes answer. How am I gonna come up with a yes answer when he said you were out last night? Crap, how am I gonna make that a yes answer?
And we had a great time.
And we had a great time, pretty good. And what she did was, yes, I was out with you, you handsome thing. She literally did that. And she probably went on to say, and we had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do it, but you have to stop and think. You gotta get off your insistence that you've gotta correct me and make me think the way you think. Because I can't do that. Can't do that anymore. I used to, but I can't. Less is more, fewer words, fewer details, short sentences. I'm sorry is a wonderful thing. You didn't tell me you were gonna be gone. Your answer is, yes, I did. We had a conversation this morning at breakfast. I told you I was gonna go have lunch with Betty. Oh, boy. So now you're giving me what? Stuff, data, information. Am I gonna hold on to it? You gave it to me at breakfast this morning. What were you expecting me to do with it? Hold on to it. Did I? No. Who's frustrated now? You are. Because you set me up. You set me up. So when that happens, so when I say you didn't tell me, it's not gonna do a bit of good for you to say, yes, I did. I told you at breakfast this morning, don't you remember? That's what we wanna do. But I'm sorry, can you play that one? You know, I'm sorry, I thought I told you. I will do better next time. Now try to argue with me. You can't argue with somebody who says, I'm sorry. Now, are you apologizing for something you didn't do? Yep, you are. You are. But it's to your best interest and mine, because then we don't have an argument. And then the next time, you're gonna change what you do. You're not gonna tell me at breakfast all this list of stuff and expect me to know it. Not gonna set me up. Pause between sentences is something all of you need to know to do. Because you speak in commas. First we're gonna go to the doctor, and then we're gonna go to the cleaners, and then we're gonna go to lunch. One thing at a time. So how can you answer the question when I say, what are we doing today? And that was the answer. How can you bring that to a nice short one phrase answer?
Going out.
Bingo. We're going out. We're gonna go running errands. You can say we're going to the doctor. You can say we're gonna go to lunch with Aunt Ethel, but you can't say both. Pick one. Preferably pick the one that I'm gonna wanna hear. But yeah, bring it down. Okay, what I'm leaving you guys with, because it is now 7 o'clock, what I'm leaving you with are the gems. Chifa Snow came up with the gems several years ago, and it is the progression of dementia. There's a lot of classification models out there that talk about the stages of dementia. You'll hear somebody say, oh, well, my mother's in stage 4, my mother's in stage 5. Yeah? With what scale? Is it the FAST scale? Is it the global deterioration scale? Is it the Allen cognitive level scale? There's a whole bunch of different scales out there. And they don't always have the same number of them. The GEMS doesn't have stages. She just names them all by a particular gem state. So you and I are sapphire on a good day when we are not stressed and when we are well rested. A lot of caregivers are never sapphire anymore because they're never not stressed. So then diamond is early stage. This is MCI. So I'm giving you a whole bunch of detail on each one of them. Diamonds are the ones like Ruth that come across very, very normal. And they're the ones that will give you a lot of pushback about changing things. They don't want anything. So you're gonna come in and try to show me how to pay bills on the computer because it's more efficient, and I'm going to push back big time if I'm a diamond, because I don't want to change anything. Thank you. And I'm gonna be really resistant to that, and I'm gonna be very, very suspicious of you trying to step on my independence when you're trying to help me out. So diamonds can be a little tricky, and they've got very good cover skills. And I can cover for a long time. Then I go into, you can talk about what diamonds like. Emeralds, this is when you really start noticing dementia. These are the people who still trying to do it, but they're making a lot of mistakes with it. I see a head going up and down, you probably know an emerald. So this is when you really start seeing it. I need more support, but a lot of times I'm not gonna let you help me. I will come in to make the coffee in the morning like I have done every morning for the last 47 years, and all of a sudden I'm starting to have trouble with the coffee. So I'm still going through the motions of life. I'm going through the motions of making coffee, but I'm not getting the steps in order, and that is a prefrontal cortex skill, being able to put steps in order, and I'm starting to have trouble with that. You're going to see that with Emerald, and you're going to start seeing my speech change. So you can go on and hear more about emeralds. Ambers are about where people are when their families realize, I can't do this anymore. I can't leave them alone anymore. I can't, I either got to have help or I've got to move them into long-term care, because ambers will wear you out. Ambers need constant attention. It's at this stage when you start seeing the person with dementia shadowing. So I'm right next to my person all the time. What are you doing? Can I help? Here, and imagine living with that all day. I need a whole lot of support all through my day. And that wears you out. And it takes a team of people to give me that much support. One person can't do it indefinitely. And you need to understand, for caregivers, this is not a sprint, folks. This is a marathon. Most dementias last between 8 and 12 years. Now, you got to think back how long yours has been. You know, I might have been 4 years into it before I ever got diagnosed. But you got to pace yourself to do this. So ambers, rubies are when rubies are the ones that are doing this kind of thing. Their world has, they're coming right here. And so most of the time I'm sitting, and I might be, or if I'm walking, I'm doing this. And you say something to me, I may or may not respond. Ambers are still hunters, gatherers, or ambers are gonna come, and they're gonna do this. They're gonna pick up whatever looks good. I'm trying to take it away from me. You're gonna get in trouble. And that's what's gonna happen with ambers. Well, you can imagine how that doesn't go well in a long-term care setting, because I'm going to go into your room and I'm going to take your stuff. And I'm going to get very angry when you try to get away from So that's what ambers will do. Rubies won't do as much of that. Rubies are gonna be a little bit more in their own world, and you're gonna have to do just about everything for me. And pearl. Pearl is the end stage. And I love the fact that she picked pearl for end stage dementia, because if you look at an oyster shell, is there anything much uglier than an oyster shell? Pretty darn ugly. But then if you can get it open, look what's inside. One of the prettiest things you'll ever see. And pearls are like that with dementia. You're gonna see me with my eyes closed most of the time. I'm gonna be pretty much non-responsive. I'm certainly not gonna be having a lot of conversation with you. I will be responsive to touch. Ambers, rubies, and pearls are very much into touch. So I'm gonna like touch a lot more than coming up and asking me questions. So you're gonna have to be real sensitive to my sensory preferences when I get to be late stage. And when I'm late stage like that, I'm in the bed, more than likely, in the hospital. So when you come see me, don't be having conversation with me. Don't be saying, so Mary, what have you been up to? When you come to see me, you play some music that you know I like. You make some nice sounds that I might like. Ooh, doesn't that look good? You might give me a nice, slow, firm hand rub. And then you might murmur something sweet in my ear. I love you. And then you leave. Because that's all I can handle. And you have connected with me in the best way you can. But that's you coming into my world. That's the whole purpose of the gyms, is showing you what my world is so that you can come and participate in it. And I have gone over time. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, my book is on the table. I have several copies here. They're $20 if you want one. I'm leaving one for the church library, but it's over there.
How do we get your slideshow?
Sorry, how did you get the slideshow? That man right there has it.
I'll link it with the video of her presentation tonight, so you should get it on Friday.
And this is one of my favorite quotes from Tifa Snow, and it's very, very true. Our opinion about this, our attitude about this, is what's going to make the journey different for ourselves and for the people that we're living with. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.